Ladies and gentlemen, please notice that exits are conveniently located at the front and rear of this auditorium. When leaving the theater, we suggest that the exit at the front of the auditorium will allow you easier access to the parking areas. Thank you.
Season 5 begins!
Nice. The season of the audience. This is going to be a good one. Because this is not a forgotten gem.
Today we are doing Mike Field's favorite movie.
No, that's incorrect.
How do you let some guy talk to you like that?
You never once did I smile. Never once did I laugh. While I watched this movie with my mouth agape, I could actually feel my soul leave my body.
Hi, I'm Mike Field.
And I'm Mike Butler.
And you're listening to the Forgotten Cinema Podcast. As you may know already, each episode we highlight a film that, for a variety of reasons, was forgotten by audiences. Whether it's because a more popular movie was released at the same time, or the movie simply didn't catch on with an audience in its initial run. But this season, we're not picking the movies. You, the audience, have selected our films. We're going to discuss what we love, like, or maybe not like about your movie, but we thank you for sharing your passion for the film. And as always, we recommend that everyone revisits the movie we're talking about this week. You never know, you could discover your own forgotten gem. If you enjoy our podcast, please let everyone know by rating, reviewing, and subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to this podcast right now.
All right. That was really good. That was good.
Don't start with the voices.
No, it's already happened. I'm sorry, Mike.
Oh, boy.
Uh-huh.
Enough. So, if you were listening last week, you know that we are doing an Elvis Presley movie right now. Obviously, if you have listened to Mike do his little Elvis impersonation.
What's up?
That's not Elvis Presley.
He doesn't say what's up?
I never think, no, I do not ever think he's ever said that. So anyways, this, wow. Before we get into the movie, we're going to say that this movie this week was suggested to us and we chose it by G.I. Gary V. That is his name on Twitter. He is at IGGARYB, and I'm just going to read his Twitter handle or his Twitter description. Mostly kid toys from the 80s, particularly G.I. Joe, some big boy toys too, and comics. Contributor to Pint O Comics. Now, if you were listening to this podcast regularly, you know in episode 2 of this season we did John Amentz's choice for Pint O Comics was the Phantom.
Mm-hmm.
So so that just kind of still some synergy there for you. Before we get started, we wanted to let everyone hear why this was chosen, why Mr. G.I. Gary V decided to choose this as a forgotten cinema, why he thought this was forgotten.
What movie did he choose?
I didn't say it.
You only said it's an Elvis Presley.
I apologize. So the movie that he chose was King Creole. It's from 1958. We'll get into what it's about. We'll get into the facts. But first, here's why he chose it.
Hi, this is Pint O Comics six-packer G.I. Gary. You may know me best from listening to the Pint O Comics podcast or watching the Pint O Comics YouTube channel. I do more on the YouTube side, doing reviews. COVID-19 has changed my schedule, so I actually am working more and I can't do reviews. But anyway, I digress. Forgotten Cinema reached out to listeners for suggestions for movies to review, and I chose 1958's King Creole. It's my favorite Elvis Presley movie, primarily because of the awesome soundtrack. Now, the soundtrack is much more Deep South inspired, specifically New Orleans, Louisiana, and Elvis's affinity for that seems to come through both the music and the movie itself. And one thing that I always thought was interesting was that his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, didn't really want him doing this music genre, and he wanted Elvis to continue to do the pop stuff, to be the absolute superstar that he was. So by moving Elvis into more rom-coms in the following decade, this just makes a movie stand out even more on its own, I feel. And that might be what makes me look through this movie with more rose-colored glasses than what really it does. Now, it's been a little while since I last watched it, but I do remember the actors really doing a great job with their direction. Now, everybody's giving 110%, and it seems like more than what should be needed for an Elvis movie. But I see an an Elvis that's young. He's putting a lot of energy and effort into it, doing his best to be an actor, even though you can also see his inexperience at the craft as well. Now, the main supporting characters, Carolyn Jones, who would be better known as Morticia Adams, or Walter Matthau, better known as a comedian, they seem to also be putting that same forth of energy, because there just seems to be an energy in the room that they're feeding off of, and everybody's just putting a great effort into it. And it just really something that I do enjoy watching every so often. And like I said, the soundtrack is a favorite, and it's on semi-regular rotation when I'm in the music mood.
Oh wow! Okay,
Excellent.
Good. I'm sure those were good points.
I didn't understand why he chose it, but when we listened to his description, his explanation, now I'm fully aware. I'm fully aware.
Good stuff.
All right, so we are doing King Creole, as I said. Do you want to tell everyone what it's about first? You want me to go through all the nuts and bolts?
I can tell people what it's about.
Go ahead. Why don't you give us the synopsis?
All right, this synopsis was written by J26 from IMDb.
We're just shouting at everybody right now.
I like to get they wrote them. I'm gonna give them credit.
Randos, man. Randos.
Thanks, Rando J26. Having flunked graduation for a second time and needing cash to support his crabby and thus unemployed father. I don't know about
crabby?
That. Yeah, that's
Jeez.
the one thing I take issue with. Danny Fisher takes a job as a singer in the King Creole nightclub, about the only joint around not run by smarmy crook Maxie Field, who wants him for his own place. He gets on pretty well with Field's floozy, though. And all this, plus his involvement with Field's hoods and with innocent 5 and dime store assistant Nellie, means Danny finds his world closing in on him all ways round.
Did he really call Ronnie his Field's floozy? She's a little bit more in depth than that.
That's his floozy. I feel like this was like written in 1950s talk, so like that's why I kind of like it.
Maybe you should have.
As soon as I saw that he called him the floozy, I was like, I'm reading this one.
You should have read that like you were like some New York street hood.
Oh, I can redo it.
No, you're done. You're good.
Having flunked graduation for a second time, and needing cash to support his crabby.
I said no. So King Creole has a runtime of 116 minutes. It's rated PG. Production budget of I don't know. Opening weekend I don't know. Domestic I don't know. Worldwide I don't know. I couldn't find it. So I'm.
Why do we keep you around?
I have no idea. It was released on July 2nd, 1958, which was a Wednesday. Produced by production company was Hal Wallace Productions, and it was distributed by Paramount Pictures. Now, as you know, when we do older films, mostly this is the oldest film we have done, correct? Because we've done 70s. We've not gone below the 70s.
Really? All right.
Have we?
I know we have stuff on the list that's really old, but I don't know if we've actually done it yet.
No, we have not, because.
Oh no, when was we did Night of the Hunter?
When was that? 40? 43?
That was also 50s, I believe.
Was it 50s?
I believe so.
It might have been older than this. I think it was older than this.
So boom.
Okay, so this is okay. So that's fine.
It's still one of the very few we've ever done that's
right.
This old.
Well, my point was that it's really difficult to tell you what opened that same weekend, because that's not how movies came out back then.
Night of the Hunter is 3 years younger.
Wow. Okay, so this wasn't the oldest. All right. Well, I take that back. But like I said, I can't sit there and be like, the King Creole came out up against, because it doesn't really. It just is out, and there's only, you know what I mean? There's not
one
that
movie per
houses,
cinema usually,
right?
yeah.
And I'm sure people who this message is going out to the people that were born in 2000. So if you don't understand how movies were back 50, 60, 70 years ago, it was not as many movies as they are now. So anyways, while this came out on July 2nd, I'm just going to throw you some movies that came out that same year, just to kind of give you an idea what was out around then. Closest to it was May 19th. Well, you had Attack of the 50-Foot Woman.
That's my birthday.
Ah, nice. May 9th, you had Vertigo, the Hitchcock movie. In April 23rd, you had Touch of Evil. Ooh. Yes, very good. The Orson Welles movie. Then you had, in September, you had Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, Paul Newman star, and The Seventh Seal, which was in October. Now, I just wanted to list some movies that people might have heard of before. I didn't go through the entire 1958 catalog, but just kind of give you an idea what came out around the same time. This movie is directed by Michael Curtiz. If you know who he is the Academy Award director for Casablanca. He also did White Christmas and Mildred Pierce. Written by Herbert Baker and Michael Gazzo. Now, Baker has done The Silencers, The Jazz Singer. He's more popular, more known for his TV show Flip. And he also wrote the John Denver Muppets Christmas special. Just kind of throwing that out there. Now, Michael Gazzo is not a writer per se. That's not where his bulk of his fame is known for. He played Frankie Pentageli. No, he played Frankie Panchali. I don't know. He was in Godfather Part 2. He's also in Black Sunday. This is based on a book by Harold Robbins. The book was called A Stone for Danny Fisher. Obviously, the lead character is Danny Fisher, which is played by Elvis Presley, which we'll get to.
Mm-hmm.
Cinematography, please. Were you doing the?
No, not that time. But I like that you're looking out for it.
Cinematography. I'm on like high alert. Cinematography by Russell Harlan. He was nominated for The Big Sky. He's been nominated for 6 movies for cinematography for 6 Academy Awards and never won. For Big Sky in 1952, Blackboard Jungle in 56, Atari in 62, and To Kill a Mockingbird in 62. So in the year 1962, this guy was nominated for 2 Academy Awards for cinematography. He was competing against himself, and he lost.
That's probably why he lost.
I agreed. He was nominated for The Great Race in 65 and Hawaii in 66. Very well done.
I think if you're so good that you're nominated twice in one year, you've pretty much you should just win.
Honestly, when I was younger, and you first start watching movies and you see people coming up like, oh, it's just an honor to be nominated. And you're just like, heck no. But as you get older, you're like, no, it really is.
No, yeah.
Yeah. Composer was Walter Scharf. He did an uncredited composing for Funny Girl and Walking Tall and Ben. And Scharf, which I hope I'm saying his name right, is actually nominated for 10 Oscars. Never won, but they're mostly songs like from Funny Girl, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and obviously Ben as well. Produced by, like I said, Hal B. Wallace. He has been nominated for The Rose Tattoo as producer. These have been Best Picture nominations. The Rose Tattoo, Beckett, and Anne of 1,000 Days. He's also gone on to produce True Grit, Casablanca, as I said before, which was directed by Curtiz, Maltese Falcon, Sons of Katie Elder. So Wallace, big time producer.
You had some big names in this.
Oh, of course. I also wanted to mention, because I talked about the novelist Harold Robbins, and he wrote the book that they based the movie on. And the one thing I have from him, he has a quote that I actually think there was they did like a documentary, or they were about writing or whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's about him, but he has a quote where he's like, I'm the world's best writer. There's nothing more to say. I actually like that quote. So anyways, so Danny Fisher is the main character. He is played by Elvis Presley. You know who the king is, right, everyone? There you go. He's been in such movies as Tickle Me, Girls, 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 and Blue Hawaii, but obviously he's the king, so that's probably what he's more known for. Carolyn Jones plays Ronnie. She is not a floozy, as that description that Mike recently said. Not. She was nominated for Oscar in The Bachelor Party. She's also in House of Wax and the 58 version of Invasion of Body Snatchers. She's in The 7-Year Itch, The Man Who Knew Too Much as well. And Walter Matthau plays Maxie Field, who's nominated for an Oscar in The Fortune Cookie. He won the Oscar for The Fortune Cookie. He was nominated for the movie Koch and The Sunshine Boys. He's also in the Odd Couple movie, not the TV show, the movie, Grumpy Old Men series, and The Front Page. Have you ever seen The Front Page? They kind of redid it a little bit with Burt Reynolds and Christopher Reeve. They kind of a news station, but The Front Page is a play. There are a bunch of reporters at a prison, and someone's about to be executed, but he was wrongly executed, so they hide him, and they try to prove that he didn't do it.
I have not seen this movie.
You would probably like the movie, and I bet you'd want to be in the play.
I'm sure I would want to be in the play. I want to be in everything.
Front Page is really good.
But it does sound interesting. Yeah.
It is. It's a good movie. All right. So Nellie is played by Dolores Hart. Nellie is Danny Fisher's kind of love interest. I should say Ronnie is as well, which we'll get into. She is, she was in Come Fly With Me, Frances of Assisi, and Where the Boys Are. But Nellie, Dolores Hart, became a nun in 1963. And she's a prioress of the Roman Catholic Abbey of Regina Laudis in Bethlehem, Connecticut, where she resides today, Butler.
Oh, wow.
So if you want to go talk to Miss Hart, probably take a ride up to Bethlehem and say, hey, how you doing?
I'm all right.
Oh, I'm going to ask her about this movie. So anyways,
that's fine.
I thought that was a little Connecticut connection there.
I like it.
Dean Jagger plays Mr. Fisher, which I don't understand why he didn't have a first name. He's Danny's father. He won an Oscar for 12 O'Clock High. He was also in White Christmas and Vanishing Point. Vic Morrow plays Shark, the tough that Fisher goes up against towards the end. Vic Morrow is probably more known for, he passed away while he was doing the Twilight Zone, the movie. If you know about that, it's pretty bad. He's also Bad News Bears, and he was in Combat, the TV show. And then Paul Stewart plays Charlie LeGrand. Mr. Stewart was in Citizen Kane, Kiss Me Deadly, and In Cold Blood. I hope you have seen these movies. Mm-hmm. Fun fact, Vic Morrow was the father of Jennifer Jason Leigh. I didn't know if you know that.
I did not know
did not know that till that's why I wanted to kind of bring it up. Okay, so that's kind of, the facts of it, or as I say, the nuts and bolts. This is actually the first Elvis movie I've ever watched completely.
Yeah, I've only seen bits and pieces of stuff like Blue Hawaii and stuff like that.
Yeah, like you see moments. So reading about it and going through it, and I guess we can go through like our thoughts about it in terms of what we thought of it. But Did you know that this was originally supposed to be a James Dean vehicle?
I can see that.
So it was meant to be like a gritty urban drama with James Dean, and it was supposed to take place in New York City, and he was a boxer. But then when he passed away, so kind of the project went on the side. And then they got Presley on, when they signed him on, they changed it to being a singer, and it's at New Orleans because obviously there's a reason why, you know, you have Elvis Presley in a movie. He's going to do like 8 numbers.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, the James Dean version would be less of a soundtrack advertisement.
Oh, of course. And I guess you kind of see some of that stuff in the movie. So I guess off the top, what kind of stood out to you, I guess, upon your watch? Because this is probably the first time we both watched this.
Elvis ain't half bad. That's the first thing I noticed. Like, I was expecting him to be real bad.
Really?
Like, real bad. I was expecting him to be overly, I got you, babe. But I think this is earlier on in his career, so he wasn't quite the king yet.
He was poppy. He was big time.
I know he was big time by then, but he wasn't quite as flashy, I think, at that point. He's only 23 at this point in his career.
Playing a 17-year-old.
Playing a 17-year-old. That's all right. That's we still do that today in movies.
I hear you. I hear you.
But that was the first thing I noticed, pretty much right off the bat. As soon as he having that conversation with his sister in the kitchen
in the beginning,
having breakfast, I was like, "Well, he's holding his own. It's not bad right now."
I have to laugh because before that, he's singing the Crawfish song.
Oh my god, yeah!
And then I saw the guy with his little hand cart gumbo. I'm like, nothing like fresh gumbo in the morning. But, so they're all singing, and then the hookers across the way, they're waving, "Well, yeah, come over." He's like, "You're gonna pay me." It's like, that's right. Hookers pay the king. You're the king.
My first note about the entire film was, is this racist, or is it racist because I think it might be racist with them singing? It's just
I don't think so. I think that's a popular song. I don't know. I will tell you this. I want that nut hat that dude had. That hat. So they go around all the people that are street merchants. Yeah. Working in the city in city of New Orleans. I don't know what she has in her cart, but she's, with the horse and buggy. I don't know what she's selling.
She's saying it's crawfish.
Oh, crawfish. Right. I'm sorry. I take it
the whole
back.
song is about crawfish.
I thought they were just singing about crawfish. But the guy's got the gumbo. But he's singing a song about crawfish too. So why wouldn't he be singing about gumbo?
Because she's walking down the street with the crawfish. They're all singing back to her.
But then they cut to the guy that has the nut hat, and it looks like the nacho hat from The Simpsons. And he's got he's got it around his chin, and he's got the little top. He's got all these hot nuts on top of his hat.
Did I miss him?
Yeah.
I might have missed him. I might have been.
That's the first thing I noticed. So I was like, look at all those nuts.
I was like, why is this crawfish lady going by so early in the morning?
Because she got I don't know how, she got to catch them? My knowledge of crawfish has to do from Forrest Gump. So I have no idea.
And what time in the morning is this? Because
when it rained?
Well, no, he's still got to go to work before he goes to school. School starts at 8. So
does it start at 8 back then?
That's what he says. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's like, how early in the morning is this? I know that it's New Orleans. So then I'm like, okay, well, bars are open 24 hours. You can if you want.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
I was just like, man.
All I know is that I want that hat that's got nuts on top of it.
I do like that it took place in New Orleans. I do like the look of when they go outside, and obviously some of it's definitely a soundstage, but there seems to be especially that opening shot with the crawfish sales lady. Crawfish seller, whatever you name her.
Crawfish.
Craw lady. When Craw lady comes by, she's selling it. That's definitely Bourbon Street or something on New Orleans. And New Orleans really has its own look, which is interesting because it's not New York City, it's not Chicago, it's not LA, it's New Orleans, which it has its own particular interesting modern but also still old West style look to
back
it.
then, definitely.
Yeah, even kind of now.
Well, I wonder how hard it was to clear out all those streets. I wonder how. One of the things, two things I asked myself. Okay, did they clear out all the streets so that they can do this, and did they wet the streets themselves? Because Curtiz purposely shot this movie in black and white. He didn't it wasn't like they didn't have color available. They had color. He wanted to shoot it in black and white because he says that he wanted it for the ambiance. And he wanted to give the streets a noir feel. And that kind of works when they're in the alleyway, but you know what I mean? When they're at the end and in the beginning, when they kind of steal and they go to the alley, that works there. Right. Kind of like when they hit his father on top of the head, that stuff, when they steal the money, that works there too.
I think the lighting in the film, I have a note about the lighting is really, really well done. The cinematography for the most part is really well done. I'm not such a fan of the outside scene at the docks when Ronnie takes Danny away and she's healing him.
That's got to be California, right?
I would imagine.
That's supposed to be Maine.
Oh, is that supposed to be Maine?
I assume she drove him up to Maine.
That's a long drive.
I know.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just figured it was just another place near New Orleans, but it could have been Maine. I just don't think that was lit as well. And I know it was probably super bright, so it was tough to get
Right.
those kind of cameras. Having used some of those cameras in college, like I know the lights quite a pain when it's too bright or when it's too dark.
Well, let's talk about Ronnie and let's talk about Nellie, because one of my notes and one of the things I didn't understand in this movie, and I generally, on the whole, I enjoyed the film, and I mean, I enjoyed watching him sing, so I mean that was fine with me, him doing his numbers and stuff.
Oh, so was I, yeah.
But one of the things they had in here was like he was going back and forth with like who he was going to be with, and it didn't make any sense to me. Like, just so basically, Ronnie is Maxie Fields' girlfriend, but he kind of like pimps her out when people come in to show people good things. So he views her as property. He doesn't view her as somebody that he's in love with, or
right?
like that. When he needs her to sweeten a deal, he puts her in, and she, I guess, falls for Danny.
I think pretty much immediately. As soon as he sings and he defends her, he stands up for her.
And she's clearly older than him. She's supposed to be like in her. If he's 23, she's probably in her 30s.
Well, Elvis is 23. His character is 17.
So I'm sorry. Well, she's probably supposed to be like in her late 20s, early 30s, or mid 30s.
That's what I would assume. Yeah,
because Maxie's in his 40s. He's got to be or late 30s.
Well, Walter Matthau was 38 when he was filming this. But
I have to laugh because Charlie LeGrand, when he starts dating Danny's daughter, he's like, I'd like to take her out. And he's like, well, what does a 40-year-old do with a 20-year-old? I'm like, 40? You don't look 40. I had to look it up because it bothered me. And he was actually 50.
I was going to say, but this is 1958 40, which is way different than 2020 40.
Yeah. And it's a little inappropriate, Charlie. I mean, come on. I know you own a nightclub, but you should be taking out some 20-year-old.
Tell her you're 38.
She was all for it, too. She was all for that. I know she was all for that. But back to Nellie. So how he meets her is he goes in this shop, which is kind of like a white elephant type thing, like a
everything shop.
Yeah, like, but it's like busy. And like, I don't know how you don't have theft there because you don't have so many people, but he goes around and starts singing. And as he's singing, like Vic Morrow and Sharky and his gang steal stuff as they're singing.
Isn't he so great?
And he meets a girl there, Nellie, who notices they're stealing. She doesn't care because he asks her out. So then Danny takes her and he's like, oh, we're going to go to a party. We'll go to a party. Sure. Okay. And they go, I know. And he takes her to this hotel and he goes to the guy and he's like, hey, where's the party at? What party? You know, the party. And he throws him money to give him a room key, basically, because Danny's idea is that he's going to take her upstairs to the room and they're going to have some fun, obviously. And, and she's like, gets completely like, obviously it's inappropriate.
No, yeah.
Obviously it's a dick move. And she gets real upset because she likes him. And like later on, she's like, it's not because you took me to the room, it's because I really like you. So let me get this straight. This guy tries to make a play to get you into the room to basically have his way with you. And that's still not a deterrent for you to be with him because you've just met him and you like him so much. Now I get this is 58.
Yep.
But so that part of Nellie's character, the sister going out with Charlie LeGrand and being okay with that. And then just kind of how Ronnie is treated. There is a pattern of just female characters and we don't care. That's like a man writing for them.
Oh, absolutely.
And I know this is the 50s. And while I enjoy this movie, that is a little like,
yeah,
you're just kind of like, come on now.
That's like, that's the most notes I wrote for one scene. It's like, what's your name? Nellie. What's yours? Rapey McRape.
Seriously. It's really like, I thought you knew the score. And he's like,
I like you more than anybody you know. You don't know him.
Yeah, to the credit, he does. They still carry that on because when they're on the ferry,
yeah, and he feels bad about it.
He feels bad about it.
Anymore.
And to that, but
she gives him a thank you for not raping me kiss at the end.
Right. Like,
like a long one.
His stuff where he was like sorrowful about, I still think about that and I really feel bad. I was like, okay, that's fine. Right. But then when she's kind of like letting him off the hook, I'm just like, no, you really should not be on the ferry with him. And he's like, I want to show, and I love that. I want to show you something. What do you want to show me? And then he's looking And he's like, that house right there, that's where we used to live, but we never see the house. So what? Like that scene a little bothered me as well. I know I'm kind
that
of
scene
going
was cut
off.
poorly too.
It was, because there are cuts in that scene where so it's kind of over her shoulder, or it's kind of sideways, and he's looking at her, and then he cuts and he turns his head and it cuts to another shot where he's looking off in the distance, and it's like on him. And then as he's looking off into the distance, they cut back and he's looking at her again. And it's like, he didn't turn his head. How did this happen?
Over his shoulder, he's looking away, and then over her shoulder, he's looking at the house.
It's really now. I don't know if that's just. It's not really meticulously. I don't know. I don't know. Back then,
I
really
chalked it up to you can't really review your footage day of. You got to wait for those dailies. We've talked about that before.
Mm-hmm.
So they probably shot the scene, thought they got enough coverage, thought they were good. Editors in the editing room, and he's just like, shit.
And
there's no way to redo it.
And they couldn't. I would imagine. Let's put it this way: they probably couldn't, because this movie, Elvis had to ask for a 60-day deferment because he was drafted to the army in order to finish this movie. So they granted to him. So he did this movie, and then after this movie, he went right into the army. So they probably didn't have access to him to redo the scene. So yes, so to that point, I'm sure they couldn't do it. They probably were hamstrung in terms of like redoing shots and kind of getting them to come back and stuff like that. So, well, let me ask you about the song in the beginning, the first song he sings at King Creole. So,
Okay.
Was that Jailhouse Rock? Because it sounded like Jailhouse Rock.
It was very similar to Jailhouse. That was a lot of his early stuff, was taking, and some black artists credit him for it. Some black artists don't like him for it.
I understand.
Is he brought it into the forefront, but he kind of stole it from them. Yeah. Although
him and the Colonel, it's not. I'm sure Elvis wasn't the only person complicit in that.
Oh, absolutely. The Colonel, who will be played by Tom Hanks in the new Elvis biopic that's coming out.
Imagine if he was still, Elvis would still be alive today. Died in 77. He was 42.
He'd be in his 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of his music was kind of like that. Was very Jailhouse Rocky at first, and then kind of country-ish, and then he kind of went and did a whole bunch of mishmash of different styles.
Well, yeah, but
that was he was famous for.
The song sounded very similar to Jailhouse Rock in terms of just the tone, and I always love it. My favorite thing about movies, even now they do it, is just how convenient it is that the audience can dance within rhythm to the singer. So he's singing this. Never seen this guy before in their entire life. He's up there singing Jailhouse or whatever it is. I can't remember the name of the song. Then he hops down and starts dancing, and the 4 people in the front that they've got the camera, like, yeah, all right, yeah, let's do this. And they're just like dancing. I'm like, how do you know the moves?
I just love how every guy in every movie, and this is movies today too, they can go up to a band, whisper 3 words in their ear, and they got the beat and tempo perfectly in sync with the person they've just met singing.
Marty McFly had no problem doing that in Back to the Future.
Exactly. It happens so often. So often.
Well, we're not musicians. Maybe we don't understand that. Could I walk into you and be like, we're going to do this scene, go.
We're going to do this with 3, 2. All right, guys. All right, and 1, 2. Follow my lead. Maybe they can get there, but it's going to take them a minute. There's going to be a minute of.
I'm not in tune. Get out. The other thing, I know we're kind of nitpicking stuff or just bringing, but so when they find, the father is attacked by Shark and the gang. Is it Sharky or Shark? It's Shark, right? Hang on. It's Shark.
It's Shark on there, but I'm pretty sure he calls him Sharky.
I'm going to get to Shark in a second, but the father's attacked by him and he's knocked out or whatever. He's got a concussion. They kind of say he's got blood on the brain or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's all basically a ploy to get him indebted to Maxie Fields. And as the new doctor shows up and they're like, we're going to fix him up, he starts crying because he's upset because Danny kind of set this up to help his dad out. And
it wasn't supposed to be his dad. It was supposed to be dad. The physician owner who was kind of a dick to his dad.
So he's crying. He's upset. The sister's upset. They're hugging. Charlie's there. And then if you look to Nellie behind them, she's smiling. She's just like, I'm like, what?
Your father's dying. Oh, thank God. Freedom.
I'll have him for my own now. But let me get to Shark. So
when you're a jet all the way.
First of all, I don't know how tough a gang leader can be when he's wearing a cardigan. And
that's only after he works with Maxie Fields, though.
But regardless of that, so when Danny comes back, so Danny meets Ronnie. He saves her from these drunks who apparently can close up the bar at the end of the night. They're fine. He just leaves. He takes and they drop him off at school. Ronnie gives him a big kiss and he walks out. Some dude says something and he punches him. So after school, the guy's brother or friends is Shark in the gang.
Shark is the kid who Danny beat up's brother.
Right. They could come walk with us, and they take him to that alley. They're going to beat him up. And Shark pulls a knife, and Danny grabs the knife and puts him in a chokehold. And then Shark completely bitches out and is like, "Hey, man, it's just you fight dirty." And then
man, he really got off on that fighting dirty.
and then he leaves, and I'm thinking about the other gang members going, "Your leader just got choked out, and he bitched out right after that. Why are you still with him? He's clearly not good. Like he's a punk." Why is Shark?
Oh man, you're fast. I want to use you as a singer.
I hear you can sing. We got to do this really big jewelry heist.
We require a singer and a guitar.
Why don't you just wait at night when everyone's closed and just break in and steal everything? Why does it have to be in midday in front of 50 women?
Also, I'm sorry, you're going into my store. You're distracting everyone by singing. Everyone's flocking around. You're causing a nuisance in my store. Get out. Get out.
But they show the dude. They're just like, oh, look at the sweet sound.
Exactly. Yeah. I want stores with like a soda bar at the back of it.
They used to be that way.
I know. That's awesome.
Well, stores used to be everything. You used to go to that's a general store. You know that? Yeah. There's still general stores around.
I'll be able to go in with my fiance to a store I don't like Yankee Candle or something. Be like, I'll be in the back in the soda bar. Sit down, get some weird soda with like a soda float, and sit down and be like, all right, honey, bye.
I'm trying to think of something like that now. Is there any place like that now? No? Wawa?
I'm going to go over to this coffee station while you look for snacks.
So this is actually one of Elvis's favorites films he's ever done. And I think partially because of what you're saying, that they were able to showcase his acting ability. And I think like a lot of people going into it didn't really kind of like viewed Presley as somebody who couldn't handle it. But after the fact, they were like when they were really impressed, and they all thought he had a career. And I think, after this, he really doesn't do movies in terms of the dramatic element of movies. It's more about the songs and promoting Elvis. And he's always going to be singing. It's always about his persona as the king, and he's always going to get the girl and stuff like that. So this is probably one of the fewer ones that he's in that he's actually able to. It's not just about the music. It's about him.
Right. The music almost feels tacked onto this. You can cut a lot of those songs, which would make it a nice shorter movie. But
of course, yeah. I know it's 2 hours is a bit long.
Yeah. You can cut those songs and it would still be fine. Movies from the 50s always run a little too long for me. I don't know what it is. And I think part of that comes with there's always that twist. And I wrote it down in this one too. There's that twist at the end that comes out and it's like, here's another plot thread that we're going to throw at you right now. And in this case, it's, he has no choice but to work for Maxie Fields when he signs that paper. So you get this whole plot, blah, blah, blah. You've been leading up. You're leading up to the dad getting smacked over the head, having the surgery. Nothing really comes of it. And then boom. All right. Now I'm going to blow up the store. Now I'm going to blow up King Creole. I'm going to tell your dad that you set him up. And now you're all of a sudden, you're in a new plot string where now he did sign the papers. When the movie has been about him not signing the papers. Yeah,
it's
that's about 20 minutes before the end.
And then they drive off and I think part of when I was talking about, whether he was back and forth between Ronnie and Nellie, there's really no, you want one love interest.
I think that's a remnant of the book. And I think you could cut that out now, or even back then, you could cut Nellie out.
I believe in the relationship between him and Ronnie more than I do between him and Nellie.
Yeah, and he's got a lot more in common with Ronnie. He spends more time with Ronnie. They're more honest with each other. Nellie is just into Danny, and Danny wants really nothing to do with her, but loves her. But
she's the second choice. She clearly is the second choice because after you knew Ronnie was going to get shot in the back. After Ronnie gets shot by Maxie, because Maxie's just firing wildly on this pier, and he kills Ronnie. And then the next scene, they kind of cross dissolve, and the next scene is him reopening a King Creole, and he's singing, and then Nellie shows up, and then his father shows up to hear him sing. And you're right, there's just moments in there that it feels like there's pieces of stuff from different movies put together.
Yeah, and it's also as soon as he comes back, he's like King Creole, he's back. It's just like Danny's going to jail.
Yes.
He murdered 2 or 3 people.
Well,
Maxie Fields is gone and arrested, but like
he's dead. Oh, he's dead.
Yeah, he's dead. Not arrested. I don't know why I said arrested, but also Maxie Field was big time in New Orleans. There's no proof that he was a villain, so he's responsible for the murder of like 4 people, including a hugely influential New Orleans figure.
Well, let's also be clear here, because Ronnie tells Danny, everyone's looking out for you. Everything's looking out for you. I've only seen 4 members of the gang, and 3 of them were the hoods in the alleyway that he clearly didn't have a problem beating up. So where was this giant gang that Maxie ran?
And no one's got guns. Maxie didn't give anybody guns other than himself. Like he wants Danny dead now.
Mm-hmm.
Not on his side, not beat up so that he can coerce him to work for him again. He wants him dead. Give these guys some guns so they could do the job.
Yeah. Well, maybe guns aren't. I mean, again, this is the 50s, so guns might not be that easy to find back then. You know?
Guns are always easy.
Not like
find.
switchblades, yo.
This is after Prohibition. This is everybody's mobbed up. Let's go.
I would say that it's fair to note that we are coming from viewing stories that are more polished. You know what I mean? So you're talking about
sure.
the beginning of Hollywood, almost not the beginning, but kind of in its early stages. So,
and this is a Hollywood that's got more rules and restrictions placed on it. People have to talk a certain way. They can't do certain things. I mean,
correct.
This is 58. At this point, you can't show a husband and wife sleeping in the same bed at this point. So
how honest can you be in terms of what real life is back then? So I will say, though, that doesn't, while I understand how the females are written in this movie, knowing the time period, it still doesn't make it okay. And if you read this movie now, you would have to correct that. Obviously, you'd have to correct that if you redid the book. But yeah, so I will say this: there's a piece of dialogue in here that I really liked. There's some good lines, but
I've got some written down. Yep.
So one of the exchanges that I really liked was the exchange between Ronnie and Danny right before he beats the crap out of Maxie.
Yep.
Is it before he beats the crap out of him, or before he signs the letter?
It's before he signs the letter.
Right. And he goes, God gave you the charms, but you ain't using them correctly. And she's like, that's funny. And I read the directions so carefully.
I thought that was down
awesome.
Too. Yep, that was a really good line.
Awesome line that she delivers to him. I don't know. I just really liked it. What other lines did you have there?
Well, like I said before, I've still got, is there anything a man of 40 says to a woman of 20? I'm 38. There's a line in one of his songs. We talk about problematic lines where he goes, makes you glad you were born a man.
Oh, yeah.
Already singing through one of the songs about being a man in New Orleans. It's just, come on. But yeah, those are the main lines I've got written down.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that line of, that's funny. I read the instructions so well. Yeah. It's such a good line. Yeah, I also wrote that down.
Yeah. Let's talk about how the principal doesn't have any kind of jurisdiction over his own school. When
the teacher just says it's so because he's late.
Yeah. You're the principal. Just graduate him. If he just told you this sad story about how he's got to do all this stuff, you'd be like, you know what, Danny, don't worry about it. You're graduating.
That's why you're late, and you passed her class.
Right.
All right, you passed.
I get it though.
You're gonna hold him back 3 times.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to walk. Here, I'll give you your certificate, but you're grad. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
That's a little ridiculous.
Yeah. Old lady. I think one of the reasons that, obviously G.I. Gary Vee suggested this was why he thought it was forgotten. I'm going to say why I think it was forgotten was probably because it's old. It's an older film. People don't know it now. Mm-hmm. It's 80 years old.
Well, 58?
60 years old. Excuse me. 60 years old.
62 years old, yeah.
So nobody's really watching this movie unless you knew who Elvis was or you grew up loving Elvis. Or anyone now that's, like I said, born in 2000 isn't going to find this movie. Which I was surprised though, because we were able to get it on Amazon Prime.
Oh, it's Elvis.
No, I get that, but like just movies that I go through and we're trying to find, and we can't find him at all.
Right. Well, I think that's the pull of Elvis is his stardom. Even though I would say most of his fan base is getting older and older. It's still quite a huge, large fan base for Elvis. He's such a name. Yeah. He's such a figure in history, akin to like the Beatles, that you're gonna find out all of his stuff at all times. Mm-hmm. I was surprised it wasn't free streaming, that I had to pay for it, but that could be the Presley estate. I was a little disappointed in that. But I also think it might be forgotten because it's not that happy-go-lucky blue Hawaiian type. Oh, right, let's jive with the 50s and 60s. He's right.
Was that your Elvis?
No, that was just some Elvis fan. I think that's why Elvis really likes this film, is it was him taken seriously. And the other ones are just him doing like his fun stuff, which I could care less for those type films. Like I'd like to see stuff like Blue Hawaiian or whatever because it's so famous. But knowing what I know about it and knowing some of the scenes I've seen, it's much more of a let's sell some records.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of a slow burn crime movie that Elvis fans might not really be into as much.
I don't know too much about his movies. All I do know is that most of them take place in Hawaii.
Do they?
I don't know. Do they? Or like obviously California.
I think probably that California. Probably don't have him go far, but
yeah.
And I know the World War II movie he did is like a basically like a puff piece, like Rah Rah USA, which they were all back then for the military.
I mean,
movies.
when you're as popular as he was, and somebody who is his importance is more in terms of entertainment of the country,
right?
When you go into the army, you're not doing anything on the front lines.
No, right? I get that.
Yeah. So I mean, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 songs from this movie that I don't know if he performed, but he sang and some, he might have sung them all in the movie.
He probably sings them, but dubs it over. A lot of the songs were like the big time, like ragtime songs where he really like belts it out like your Jailhouse Rock type song.
Right.
It seems like before he gets to the screaming part, he's kind of just faking it.
Mm-hmm.
He's just kind of like this, but he gets real loud. And it's like, there's no, you look at his throat and stuff, and until he finally gets to the actual screaming, there's no veins coming out. There's just very calm, very small words.
They're playback. It's probably he's just
right. I get that. Yeah. So I think he performed it, but didn't perform them on stage.
You think when he was doing the scene at the King Creole's, he was performing those on stage?
No.
Really?
Maybe the acoustic stuff, but definitely not any of the more rocky jazz type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
None of that.
Mm-hmm.
The acoustic stuff, maybe.
Yeah.
But I also think that this movie might have greater acclaim. This movie might be something you watch in film class and stuff like that. If it ended on more of that kind of noir feel, like it's got that feel good ending.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if it ended with Ronnie getting shot, or it ended with Danny going to jail for murdering people.
Well, that's probably the James Dean version.
That's more of what that's what I expected to see. Once they got to that oceanfront, I'm like, this is going to end like it should.
Yeah.
No happy endings. And it didn't. And it was just like
Elvis behind bars.
Yeah, because it's Elvis
singing Jailhouse Rock, but like singing it like emo style, like when they take old big songs, punk songs, and they turn them like Jailhouse Rock with me, like that, like really,
yeah. Or maybe like have Danny talk to his dad and be like, listen, I didn't make it as something, but I stopped Maxie Fields. Maxie Fields gone, so I did something with my life, and then like that's his thing, and that's like not a great thing. You pan out, and you get those big like horns that 1950s dun dun dun. Well, and the Paramount logo goes.
While I enjoy Presley in this movie, I wonder if I would like this movie more with the urban gritty with James Dean, which the director of Casablanca, Curtiz, is behind it. With I think that might be a better movie that I would enjoy more, maybe, rather than this.
I was surprised how much I did enjoy this, how much it kept me interested. But yeah, I think a slightly grittier one would have been better. Less puff in terms of like maybe the fights,
right,
and and how they depicted violence.
Well, what about the father? Because the father, they set the father up to be like, I got the impression that he was a drunk in terms of like
at first before you meet him,
right?
Yes, and then you meet him and he's not,
and he's not like they. Then they were like, oh, he's a sad sack, and then I just got the impression that Danny was being a little unfair. How do you let some guy talk to you like that?
That's you hear about him through Danny's eyes.
Yeah.
But then you realize he's not that kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a little bit of a pushover.
The father?
But
what's he supposed to do? He's got a job. That guy, I love that guy. I want to hire someone young. You're just as old as him.
The other thing is, like, I want a younger man. I was like, I bet you do.
And they have that owner there. And then you never see the guy again. Hire him. All right. Where's the application? We don't have any. Well, then hire him. It's like, well, that all it takes? I got to do that. I'm going to go to it.
He didn't like being called older in front of the other older guy.
Yeah.
But I also thought more would come of that whole you don't know how to fill prescriptions thing. Like, I thought that was going to be like a subplot where the father finally stands up.
Maybe it was.
Excuse me. And goes, listen, you're filling prescriptions wrong. That's dangerous. This is how you do it. And like the owner finally realizes that guy's got to go, and Danny's dad becomes the head of the pharmacy.
This probably goes to what you were talking about earlier in terms of
The book.
There seemed to be a lot of different threads that didn't make sense, but they kind of wove them together anyways. I know I said that, but, but that was what you were saying before.
Yeah.
So maybe that, like you said, there was stuff with the father in the book that had to do with and Danny more there.
I would imagine there's more with the father and Danny, maybe more with with Shark and Danny, because it feels like they're building up this friendship that eventually goes sour that really isn't there in the film.
I don't know. Danny's like a real jerk to him half the time.
Exactly.
Not that Shark's a nice guy, but like Danny's just like a real jerk to everybody almost.
And the dad, I'd be interested to see if in the novel the dad comes back and watches that last performance.
Oh,
because the dad left Danny to die. Danny basically left him to die.
He's bleeding out. I just picture the next morning he opens the door. He's like, "There's no blood all over here." Whatever.
Well, maybe that's why he felt bad and went to the thing. But it's just like, yeah, I would imagine maybe in the original novel, Danny's dad just kind of disowns him, because I would.
Well, apparently, like the daughter's going to get married to the owner of King Creole. Danny's going to consistently play there for the rest of his life, obviously. He's going to marry Nellie. I guess they're going to, I don't know. They're supposed to be like, they're not living in a great part of town, apparently, because they lost their house and all that stuff.
They're living like right off Bourbon Street and stuff, right?
But, I mean, honestly, it's not that bad. Maybe back then it's bad. I don't know. I mean, the hookers are very nice. They're very nice.
Very nice hookers. Great hookers.
They said that he could come over for free.
They paid him back.
Oh. Yeah, so for those of you, maybe, I mean, for those who don't really watch a lot of older movies, I don't think you can't do wrong watching this. If you like Elvis Presley, you like the King, you like music, go for it.
The acting's good. The cinematography's very good.
It is. You have a lot of, like you said, when I was going through the list of people who made this movie, you have a lot of great talent behind this movie. So that side of the film is not something that's flawed at all. You've got a great director, you've got a great cinematographer, you've got quality people. So you're good. What's on screen is well done. So you can't knock that.
Yeah.
I mean, Michael Curtiz has made probably arguably the greatest movie of all time. I mean, I don't believe that. I'm saying arguably, but like, Casablanca is a classic to the point when somebody tried to remake it. When Ben Affleck's like, I'm going to remake it, people were like in an uproar.
Yeah.
You're not remaking that movie.
Oh, I thought he was doing the sequel.
No, he talked about
He
how
wanted to do
they
the
were
original?
it first came out that him and Lopez were going to remake it, and people went ballistic and like, you're not doing that. And you don't need to make a sequel.
You don't remake Casablanca, and you don't remake Citizen Kane.
No. Agreed.
There are some things you just don't touch. I will.
Yeah. I was sitting there thinking, I was
trying
to think about, would I like a Citizen Kane remake? Probably not.
No.
It's the movie. I don't know.
That's Orson Welles' movie.
I don't know
That's
too much.
the
I
thing.
know, like, I've seen Casablanca and I enjoy it and I like a lot of stuff, but I know a little bit more about like Citizen Kane, like the stuff that he did when he shot it, like, to get the low angle. Like
he created so many different things. Right.
I love the story when he did the low angle. He basically chopped up the floorboards. Like, I thought that was awesome. Like, yeah, but like that movie kind of set forth in motion how movies were going to be done, which is why that movie is so fantastic. And I really, and I've only seen parts of it, and I really wish they still had the Orson Welles cut of the Magnificent Ambersons, because that's supposed to be fantastic.
Oh, really?
And I've never been able to I've never been able to watch it completely through, but I've always, ever since they said like there's a different cut out there that's gone forever, I'm just like, damn it.
It's somewhere. Someone's got it.
Hopefully.
They just got to refurbish it. It's probably in bad shape.
Hopefully. But anyways, go ahead. You were saying.
I thought it was interesting that we talk about how great the movie is. One thing that, and I guess older movies can't help this, but I noticed is ambient sound goes away very quickly in films when you cut to from an outdoor to an indoor location.
That has everything to do with the time.
Exactly. It must have been very hard to cut the audio on the tape to fade, but that always is very jarring to me when they're like out. Danny's dad is outside before he goes to the pharmacist's office, and you hear the horse clumping, and then immediately he opens the door and you cut inside, even though the door's still open. You hear nothing from the outside.
It's like you said. It's probably. I would assume that you're able to do some of it, but it takes a lot of time to get it right.
Right.
And if you don't have time to get these movies done and out and into the world,
it's probably not worth it. It's just a small detail and stuff like that.
Right.
The other thing I noticed that I wanted to point out before we finish up is the poster image that I saw.
It's colorized.
It's not only colorized, but has the banana girl on it. He's singing to the banana girl.
Yeah, you're
so
right.
many other different posters. It's like she has one scene, which is there for obvious reasons.
What reason is that, Mike?
Because she's got legs and a tight outfit.
And she throwing bananas at people?
Oh yeah, she's very not subtle. But I just thought it was like he has two love interests in this film, and neither one are the one in the poster image. There's one poster image where he's kissing Nelly, and then the rest all had the banana girl on it.
That tells me that when the people that were probably creating the promotional images for this movie, I mean, obviously that was done later on. They probably only watched 30 minutes of the movie, and they're like, all right, just do the poster image of the banana girl.
Mm-hmm.
They probably didn't even get to the other stuff.
Well, that banana girl's got a full 5 minutes. It's the only 5 minutes I watched.
Do it.
I saw Elvis with the guitar in one scene. This all sounds great.
Yeah. So, all right. So yeah. So I mean, check it out. Like you said, all this whole season, we're doing audience suggestions. If you saw the video that kind of premiered, you if you read it real quick, maybe you didn't catch them all the names in there. But next week we're going to be doing a movie that I have never seen, called Uptown Girls, who came out in 2003.
2 in a row.
Let's see. I've never seen 1, 2. So we've got Uptown Girls coming up. I've seen the one after that your mother suggested that we're doing. I haven't seen 11, 14. I haven't seen Folks, but other 3 I see. Okay, anyways. So we're doing Uptown Girls, and that was suggested to us by Burker Fanar. Now, he's a friend of Russ Lyman, who's a friend of the show.
Okay.
He's actually, when I went on to his, he suggested this through Facebook. When I went on his page, he's from Iceland. So I don't know how he knows Russ.
Oh, I think I know that guy too. Yeah.
So,
he's a
cool.
fan of Two Player Bros.
He listens to the show, and he's a fan of, so he's just, which is cool. So that's why I wanted to do it. And obviously we try to do movies that we never would have picked ourselves. So I think Uptown Girls has Brittany Murphy in it.
I believe you're correct.
So that's what we'll be doing next week. We'll be doing Uptown Girls. And yeah, I don't know. You got anything else?
I got nothing.
Should I let people know where they can find us?
Oh, well, I can let people know where they can find us.
But I can do it too.
Well, I can do it better.
Okay.
Or you can find us at
No, I'm shutting that down right now.
You can find us at ForgottenCinemaPodcast.com, where we have all our episodes, older and newer, and a link to our merch page as well, where you can buy our branded merch, which I know you guys love. You can also find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Forgotten Cinema Pod. We post every week different posts about the episodes. We post little commercials every week as well about the episodes we got coming up. There's short form commercials.
I got you.
And you can also find our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Pandora, iHeartRadio, wherever podcasts can be found. And wherever you're listening, please rate, review, and subscribe, and let everyone that you know about our podcast.
We don't know. I was saying this to my wife the other day because she's like, well, did you get a lot of subscribers? I go, we don't know when people subscribe to Apple Podcasts. I don't know why we don't know. We don't get that information.
Mm-hmm.
But what we do get are the reviews and the ratings. So that's the best way for us to know that you guys are out there listening, is if you kind of rate it and review it. I know nobody likes to do that because nobody wants your opinion. But even if you just say, I love the show, thanks a lot, guys. That's it. Just so we know that, hey, we got fans. Woo! So we can feel good about ourselves.
And if you guys have any movie suggestions, we know this is the season 4 movie suggestions, all of them, but we still pepper them out throughout our seasons.
Right.
So if you guys have a suggestion, hit us up on social media or email us at ForgottenCinemaPod@gmail.com.
Absolutely. Everyone, thanks for listening. Join us next week for Uptown Girls. Again, I am Mike Field.
And I am Mike Builder.
And this has been Forgotten Cinema.
Can't argue with the king.
I can, because you're not the king.
Oh, do you know Elvis was blonde and he dyed his hair black?
I knew that now, I guess.
That's right.
Nice job.
Thank you. Oh, yeah.